If you haven't been living under a rock, or, well, I guess even if you have been living under a rock like Patrick, then you have probably heard the name SpongeBob once or twice before. But just in case you have zero idea who I'm talking about, here's a little recap for you. SpongeBob SquarePants is an animated kids-based comedy created by Steven Hillenburg in 1999. The premise of the show is pretty simple, and yet so comically effective time and time again. It follows the life of our titular character, SpongeBob, his friends, and all of the everyday lives that they live in the undersea town of Bikini Bottom. Even with the basis of the show being so uncomplicated, it soon rose to godlike status and to this day is considered one of the greatest cartoons to ever have been conceived. And I, for one, can agree with that pretty easily. However, despite the franchise's massive success, the show had unfortunately been plagued by a fitting for its time and yet oh so stupid type of controversy. That SpongeBob was gay. Now, you may be sitting there with your lens of 2022 on and be wondering, who the hell cares? Well, back in the early 2000s when this conspiracy was initially conjured up, a lot of people cared a lot, for a lot of different reasons. So let's get into it. Let's set the scene back in time before major cartoon networks openly celebrated queerness and instead only allowed representation to play out through the subtext. Like Bert and Ernie, for example. Let's go back to March of 2005, when a music video featuring a plethora of cartoon characters, including SpongeBob, hit over 60,000 schools and was created to spread the message of inclusivity and to encourage anti-hate and tolerance for all. And now, again, you may be thinking, that is a fantastic message that should be taught to not just children, but everyone. And trust me, you are preaching to the mother frickin' choir on this one. But definitely not God's angelic choir. Am I right, Dr. James Dobson? Many critics of the music video felt that it was just being used to reinforce homosexuality on kids and indoctrinate them. But no voice was nearly as prominent as Dr. James Dobson in the fight against the video. He's the founder of Focus on the Family, which is a Christian organization that advocates for the typical nuclear family and cherishing tradition above all else. Dr. Dobson was publicly very adamant about his opinion on the video. And I quote, he said it crossed a moral line by pledging tolerance to all people because that included the LGBTQ+ community. And even though the video never explicitly mentioned homosexuality or any hidden symbols related to it, he felt that it was completely unnecessary and downright wrong to use SpongeBob as an icon for gay people. Like, why do you care? But a few years prior to all this, the rumor of SpongeBob being gay was already spreading like wildfire, with a lot of people just seeing it as some sort of secret joke for the adults watching. In fact, the rumor was so popular that Steven Hillenburg himself came out and denied it, instead labeling the sponge as an asexual because that's just how sea sponges are in reality. But even after coming out and denying it, this whole mess of a situation from 2005 only fanned the fires of conspiracy, and led to people theorizing on SpongeBob's identity more and more. However, as the years went by, the opinions grew to be much more positive, and we can thank his lovely friends over at DeviantArt and fanfiction.net for that. With the LGBTQ+ community becoming more accepted in the mainstream media, the rules on representation in the media were relaxed heavily, which only allowed Cartoon Networks to bring a wide selection of characters to their shows and be warmly embraced by many young fans who were finally able to see themselves in their favorite characters. So ultimately, the good from all of this mess outweighed the backlash that could still be found in a sad part of the world. Finally, after so many years, SpongeBob was freed from the chains of his past controversy and allowed to truly open up and be himself. So, in 2020, he came out publicly on Twitter. I'm just goofing you, Dr. Dobson, please don't come for my throat. But really, the magical thing about a lot of cartoon characters is that they can be whatever you want them to be. Because honestly, at the end of the day, he is just a sponge. Who cares what colors make him up? definitely not the 5-year-olds the show's targeted at.